going to get right into the storytelling because we got a lot of ground to cover here. On that very first Chautauqua, they had us up in Arborg with a local historian and farmer named Jóel Friðfinnsson. And at this point, I'd like to apologize to anyone who is Icelandic in the crowd. I will mispronounce all of your names. Jóel took us out on the land and told us about John Ramsay. And if you don't know John Ramsay, I highly encourage you to look him up. He's a pretty incredible guy. So when the first Icelandic settlers got to the land, there was some misunderstanding, to say the least. But despite that, and despite a lot of the land just being given away, John Ramsay and the Indigenous people whose community he lived in and was a leader in, nonetheless really helped those settlers in their first few years there. Even after the smallpox came and wiped out so many, including most of John's family, he still never broke faith. Several years after he had died, Jóel told us that there was a Icelandic carpenter named Trausti Vigfusson, and Trausti had the penchant for dreams. And he said one night in a dream, he dreamed that a strange-looking man came into his head and asked him to go look after his wife's grave. And if you go north from Gimli along the lakeshore, you will find Betsy Ramsay's grave right on the lakeshore, still being faithfully tended, because he did what John asked him to in his dream. So I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the waves of immigration. I was thinking about all the struggles and the triumphs and the tragedies. And I was thinking about the power of dreams when I wrote this song. So it's called Blurs the Line.
I am a poor man, come from a land far over the deep swirling brine. Valhalla or hell, I'm not sure how to tell. I've come for a place to call mine. My daughter and wife, built here alive, a hard one as we've come to learn. With winter so cold and horrors untold, we pray that the pox don't return. One night in my bed came into my head a man the likes I never seen, and the question he posed haunts my repose and my days as though more than a dream. Blurs the line between time. Blurs the line between time. I am a poor girl of the new world, yet the tales of my parents resound so deep in my soul, like the whirling hot rules of the fatherland, round and around. So it happened one day, I happened to stray out in my parents' domain, and through the steam found myself in a scene on a path that was no earthly plane. Blurs the line between time. Blurs the line between time. Now here I stand, the same haunted land, remembering what did befell. Though it's been many years, am I there or they here? Sometimes it feels hard to tell. Blurs the line between time. Blurs the line between time.
Thank you so very much. When I was seeking contacts in the Interlake to tell me cool stories, everybody right away said, oh, you should probably go check out Andy Blicq. And I did that. And Andy and I had some really great conversations during those early months of lockdown when I couldn't actually go visit the communities we were supposed to be writing about. But he gave me plenty to think about and to write about and to read about, including when he told me about the quarantine wedding. And those of you who don't know me, I'm not actually talking about myself for once. This quarantine wedding happened a very long time ago in that same smallpox outbreak. And in 1877, a recent arrival in New Iceland, what is now Gimli, named Carrie Taylor, decided that she and her husband needed to get married in the middle of the entire community being in quarantine because of the disease. The problem for them was there was no minister in town. And so they wrote a letter and had one come up and meet them at the boundary line of the quarantine, which happened to be Netley Creek. So the couple stood on one side, the minister stood on the other side, and they shouted their vows across. And the coolest part about that is that it was January. So they were very in love, clearly. So I wrote this song about Carrie, and it's called The Ballad of Carrie Taylor. And it was one of the first times I'd ever written from a woman's perspective, and I'm cool with that, but I thought who would do a better job singing it than I would, and I immediately thought of my good friend, an amazing singer, Soul James, who happens to be, yeah, right there. But she also happens to be a fantastic singer, so on the album she was kind enough to lend her vocals to this, and I think you're going to enjoy hearing her sing. Right now, we're going to feature her lots this evening. This is called The Ballad of Carrie Taylor, or The Other Side.
In Frontenac. When Mama took sick, she left us real quick. 5 little dresses in black. So we grew up in mourning, and there were nights in which I'll confide. In my dreams I would see her smiling at me, waving from the other side. I was no fool, so they sent me to school, and the years passed by in a whirl. My hair was taken up, my skirts lowered down, all at once no longer a girl. I took a job in the country, where one morning out the window I spied hair a golden color, a complexion like no other, of another on the other side. She became my friend and told me she'd been sent from a faraway colony. And my uncle and my daddy decided we'd be happy on the shores of an inland sea. So we undertook the journey, thinking of the life that we'd find. If we kept heading west and our journey was blessed, we'd find it on the other side. When we got to Manitoba, wicked winds blew colder and the lakes froze under the snow. So when a fine-looking man asked me for my hand, it set my maiden heart all aglow. But as our love was rising, the park swept through like a tide, and no one was getting married, with so many being buried, carried over to the other side. The quarantine meant we could not leave, and not a minister left in town. So with nothing getting better, we wrote to one a letter to see if he would come around. We met him at the river, but he would not cross the boundary line. But not a word was lost with a shout. like the night. But I know I'll see my family when I cross over to the other side.
Soul James, ladies and gentlemen. So who's had a sip of the Three Sisters craft lager? Cool. I wanted to really badly, but they gave me a test pressing for promo, and it was full of hand sanitizer because the beer wasn't ready, and it's really been messing with me to have that sitting on my shelf and not being able to drink it. So I'll join you when this is done, though. So big thanks to Nonsuch for making that beer. How about it again for Nonsuch, then? But I wanted to tell you why it's called the Three Sisters Craft Lager. And it's because as we were doing the Chautauqua project, Emily, who I'm going to talk about a lot because I think she's really great, Emily Solstice told me that there was someone, a knowledge keeper, a historian, a really great person, who happened to know the names of the waves on the lake. And I said, I have to meet this person. And it turns out that this person is a knowledge keeper, a historian, an elder, a recipient of the Order of Manitoba, and a really, really kind lady. And she's sitting right there. Her name is Elder Ruth Christie, ladies and gentlemen. And so I asked if I could come over, and she said, sure. Gave me some really good stuff to eat, and then told me the most amazing stories for the next 4 hours. It was incredible. I could have written another 3 albums just on what she told me alone. But she confirmed that for generations, the phenomena known as the Three Sisters has been occurring on Lake Winnipeg, and it's these 3 rogue waves that come up, especially during a storm. And fishermen and fisherfolk and sailors and people on the lake have referred to these waves as the Three Sisters and even have names for them. And in order, they are Agnes, Mabel, and Becky. And it's said that Becky is the third who comes last, the youngest sister, but she's the biggest wave and the one that sinks the boat. And I thought this was a really compelling thought, especially having met those sisters in some bad storms sailing out on the lake and not being a fan at all. But it's still a really great story, and what I couldn't find was why. Why are they called that? Where do those names come from? So eventually I gave up, and I decided I'd write my own origin story. So that's what this is. It's called The Three Sisters, and I really want to thank Ruth for giving me the idea for the song. 2, 3.
You see the wind and the lake, they were lovers long before time had begun, and they moved together as lovers do, timeless under the sun. And when the winter blew colder, they were parted by endless glass. Their daughters were born in the springtime, first Agnes, then Mabel, and Becky, she came last. Was oldest and dutiful to a fault. She sparkled in the moonlight, a beautiful cobalt, but in her heart a secret locked up in the vault. She'd fallen for a fisherman from a village on the shore, watched him from the beaches where he'd washed up before, followed in the water when he was busy pulling on the oars. Second and adored her sister so, always in her shadow but content to follow, lovely as the moon sister, spying as he fished. She felt a stab of envy and the shock and jealous twist, shaken and amazed by the weight of what she wished. Becky was the baby with the mischievous streak. She talked back to her sisters and she gave her mother cheek. Secretly she saw Agnes and Mabel as weak. She thought that they were silly, pining over the boy. She didn't care about him or how he brought them joy. She thought that fishing trawler was a toy. They followed it out, yeah, they followed it out. The three sisters in a row. Yeah, they tossed it about, yeah, they tossed it about as the storm began to grow. Agnes following her heart, Mabel following her sister, Becky following just for fun. Yeah, and Becky, she knew in the wake of the two, most of the work would be done. So Agnes struck strong, and Mabel struck strong, and left the boat battered and bruised. And when Becky came along with an ominous song, it tore the blanket loose, and now it's drifting away. Drifting away, drifting away. Now it's drifting away. It's drifting, keeps drifting away. Yeah, it's drifting away. It's drifting, it's drifting away. Keeps drifting away. And as the body grew colder and the daylight streamed from his eyes, the sisters as one saw what they'd done, and the storm began to subside. First Agnes wept for the fisherman, and then Mabel, she wept for the shame. And Becky came last, and to herself laughed and thought, what a wonderful game. So beware, ye sailors and fisher folk, for the sisters their fathers lead take, and would bid thee come, as many have done, to the mother's house deep in the lake.
I was going stir crazy in the studio for most of this process all by myself. Couldn't see anybody. We're all locked down. And I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to be playing these songs with such a talented group of musicians. That's Alex Campbell on the keys, ladies and gentlemen. That's Michael Jordan on the drums back there. Daniel Peloquin-Hopfner and all of the instruments known to people. And Soul James is pretty great, isn't she? Andy, I needed one more song. This is the last one we wrote. We're going to play it now. And Andy said, well, you need a true shipwreck song. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. And there's a really wonderful songwriter named Solly Sigurdsson. You should check him out. He wrote a bunch of songs about Lake Winnipeg back in the 60s or 70s. And he covered the sinking of the Suzanne E, so I couldn't do that one. But Andy said, you should write about the princess. And I said, I don't know anything about the princess, but that's what Chautauqua is all about. And so I started searching about it, and at the time when it sank in 1906, it was the biggest nautical disaster on Lake Winnipeg. 6 souls went down with it. And I found this old article in the archives from the year later, so 1907, and it talked about the whole thing. But what I was struck about this story, it's your usual shipwreck where everything goes wrong. The only person who seemed to have kept their head was Mrs. Sinclair, and I don't even think they say her first name. But she was a passenger on board, and as the ship started to go down, she kind of rallied everybody, and she roused these potentially drunk crewmen and got them to throw the yawl, the safety boat, into the water. And she had 2 small children with her, and apparently she was chucking them over the side into the boat, and her entire family survived. So I thought that was pretty awesome. Go Mrs. Sinclair. And their anecdote when they were interviewed is later they said they looked back and saw the wheelhouse of the boat, at this point it split in 2, drifting away with the cabin and 2 crew members on it, and all they could hear was what they were singing coming back to them. And it was Nearer My God to Thee, which, if for you DiCaprio fans out there will remember, that's what they were singing on the Titanic when it went down years later. So this was the first boat, and apparently that is the sinking jam, in case you ever unfortunately find yourself in that situation. I hope none of you do.
Yeah, keep that in your back pocket
Yeah.
at all times.
You might need it tonight.
Yeah, hopefully not this evening. It looks cold.
There's a safety yawl down there.
That's right. There it is. It's got a sing-along chorus. You feel like some singing? I'll take that as a resounding yes. It's pretty simple. So the words are, she was the princess on the lake, the princess down the red, the princess in the storm. So, she was the princess on the lake, she was the princess down the red, she was the princess in the storm. I'm not going to give you the last line. You have to wait for that, but want to give it a shot? She was the princess on the lake, she was the princess down the red, she was the princess in the storm. Beautiful. Okay, we expect you to do that all 400 times the chorus comes along. Okay. It was 1906 in late August when the princess went down in the waves, some miles yet from Swampy Island, taking 6 souls to the grave. The captain had ordered them turned back, too late in the telling by some, when the smokestack cracked and cut through like an axe, and the princess, she was done. She was the princess on the lake, she was the princess down the red, she was the princess in the storm, but now she's the queen of the dead. With waves as high as the mountains, rain like needle and nails, valleys they fell to were depthless, the spray cloaked the night in a veil, with the cold swell lashing upon her, clutching her children so tight. Mrs. Sinclair fought for them there, while the others were swept into night. She was the princess on the lake, she was the princess down the red, she was the princess in the storm, but now she's the queen of the dead. With the help of the wheelman George Starr, who awoke to a living nightmare, she freed the yawl from its mooring, and she threw her child through the air. As the princess was rent into pieces, she steadied herself for the throw, and only then with the children sent would she deem it now her time to go. She was the princess on the lake, she was the princess down the red, she was the princess in the storm, but now she's the queen of the dead. The family now reunited in a vessel so pitifully weak,
It was pummeled and pitched to a pinnacle. A last glance glimpse from its beak. The captain still in the wheelhouse. Stewardess and cook there with heat. And over the tempest their song could be heard. Nearer, my God, to thee.
Merciless master, and it suffers no royalty. But when the princess went down, it bestowed a crown, and now she rules for eternity. She was the princess on the lake. She was the princess down the lake. She was the princess in a storm, but now she's the queen. Yes, she's the queen of the dead. Thank you so very kindly. So those are the first 4 songs from the LP, and we're going to deviate for a couple songs and play a couple that aren't, but still thematically fit. This is a song that for years I've been lucky enough to play with Daniel and Sheena in my band Red Moon Road, so maybe you've heard it there. And it's about my Opa, my grandfather, who farmed very close to the Interlake in Petersfield. And one of the things I really come to appreciate every time I drive up there is how quickly it goes farm, lake. And it's just really a stark thing. But for all the time we spent on the farm growing up, we didn't really spend a ton of time on the lake. I'm going to dovetail one further and also say I would be remiss that as I'm talking about all of these stories, and so much of it is colonial history, I did learn a whole bunch that history started thousands and thousands of years before any of that. And I felt like it wasn't necessarily my place to write about that in songs, but I did learn a bunch. And one of the things I learned about was the St. Peter's Land Reserve seizure, one of the largest illegal land seizures by the Canadian government ever back in the early 1900s, when a huge swath of really beautiful, fertile farmland was taken illegally from the people who were living there. And you think about the generational reverberations such a thing would have, especially considering that made room for a lot of settlers who were coming to the area, including some of my own ancestors. And so I'm not saying this to cast blame on anybody alive today or anything like that, but I think it's important to hold these uncomfortable truths even as we venerate and honor our ancestors. I think we have to hold that truth in mind if we are truly seeking reconciliation, and especially given the day that it was yesterday. I just wanted to say that I learned lots, and it is a rich history that goes far beyond most of these things that I'm writing about today, and I'm very grateful to those folks who protected such beautiful land and waterways for time immemorial, including right up until now. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah. And I want to sing you a song about my Opa because I miss him a lot, and he's like many of the farmers up in the Interlake. He worked very hard his entire life, and I realized it wasn't just his farm. You see when you drive through all these beautiful little farmhouses where they've all got the wind block, right? The trees all around the farmyard. And I remember going out to visit Opa into his 92nd year, and no matter how nicely I dressed up to make up for the fact I still had long hair, which he never really forgave me for, he'd have us out in the muck planting some trees, and it was a really beautiful memory. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, a 90-year-old man planting trees. And I thought that was a pretty beautiful thing. So I wrote this song, and it's going to dovetail nicely into another person in this band's farming grandfather. This is called Planting Trees. Landing in the New World, 1951. Your hands upon the rail had held a baby plowing gun. And the train you hitched a ride on held everything you own. Freedom's call with every whistle blow was was no time for wasting, and so you learn the language fast. The hard work was a present that kept at bay the past. And soon enough the savings bought the farm in '64, and the trees you planted there showed what was yours. Trees around the farmyard into perfect running rows. Some older than you are, some you won't see grow. In the rings and in the wrinkles, the seasons I can see. Us out in the farmyard planting trees. Your hands, they read like a storybook, a lifetime ceaseless toil. 100 houses raised, backs breaking soil. Eyes as blue as the river ice, who knows the things they see. Sitting in the yard beneath your trees. All right, Dan. Hard on your family, but life was hard on you. I think you were always scared the war would follow you. And though the Sabbath is for resting, here we are on our knees. Spaded, rusted hands saw planting trees. Trees around the farmyard into perfect running rows. Some older than you are, some you won't see grow. In the rings and in the wrinkles, seasons I can see. Us out in the farmyard planting trees. Well, your children all had children. Now they have children too. One day we'll walk beneath these trees. I'll tell them about you. That impish sense of humor and your steadfast faith in God. Sunday afternoons out breaking sod. Trees around the farmyard into perfect running rows. Some older than you are, some you won't see grow. In the rings and in the wrinkles, the seasons I can see. Us out in the farmyard planting trees. Yeah, us out in the farmyard planting trees. Well, thanks. Soul James and I don't just share a tenuous profession, we also share farming grandfathers. And for this song, we actually got together to write a song about it, and I'm going to let her tell you about it.
Well, thank you. How about it for Daniel here tonight? This is quite the accomplishment, isn't it? Yeah, it's my pleasure to talk about this next song. This is a song that Daniel and I wrote. It was an idea that I had for 10 years, and I couldn't quite get it from here to here. And so, luckily enough, Daniel agreed to meet with me. It's incredibly personal. I have this thing where if I can get through a song without crying, I get a chocolate bar.
She doesn't get a lot of chocolate
I
bars.
don't get a lot of chocolate bars, despite what you might think. But this is a song about my Avi. My Avi is the Icelandic grandfather. He was born in 1911. He was an old grandfather for someone like me, born in 1983. And he farmed the Interlake. His family came over in the late 1890s. And anyway, this is a song about him. Chocolate bars, chocolate bars. I'm gonna just leave it there.
While Daniel's getting his in-ears together, I just want to give a quick shout out. We have a minute to our fantastic sound guy, who this is the third time I've asked him to do a crazy gig. Once we played in the Black Star, that huge room in the legislature, once in Nonsuch Brewing. And I don't know, he keeps coming back to work with us and somehow makes it happen. So if you can hear us at all, that's Jonny Kirouc right over there, folks.
for beer tonight. Not chocolate.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
I remember golden Septembers, lunch in the hayfields, a horse on the run, starting at sunrise, stopping at sunset. No matter how long, there's work to be done. And he'd say to me, always remember, nothing's forever. And though the sun shines, it won't for all time steady the rain. And grateful for clear skies, 'cause it'll start raining in the blink of an eye. There were bad years. The rain fell like cold tears. The sloughs overflowing like hearts overcome. But life on a thin line never bothered him none. 'Cause even in thick mud, there's work to be done. I was too young to see, but he'd say to me, always remember, nothing's forever. And though the rain falls, it won't for all time steady the rains. And grateful for gray skies, 'cause it'll stop raining in the blink of an eye. How I miss him. I thought I had more time, but 21 summers were gone in the blink of an eye. Now cows in the distance, the buzz of the bees, smell of a clean sweat, or old axle green. And I'm back there in Oakview, Bobby and me, hearing these words, his legacy. Now I finally see. Always remember, nothing's forever. Though we're together, it ain't for all time steady the rains. An eye on the sky, 'cause it'll all change in the blink of an eye.
No chocolate bar for you? Would you like to hear another one from Soul James? I would.
Prairie Dawn. Just gotta pump myself up here. All right. Well, I'll talk about it. How about that? My best friend is a wonderful woman with roots in Peguis First Nation. We grew up together in Selkirk, and we played French horn together, and then we went into university together, and she's a wonderful person who makes things with her hands. Her Cree name is Spotted Eagle Woman. She made these earrings today that I'm wearing. She's just been one of those friends that I can always count on, and every year for my birthday, she makes me something by hand. One year she made me a heat bag with rice in it that you could put in the microwave for your neck and stuff. Another time she made me a lunch bag. She made me these earrings. And I don't make any of that stuff. I'm not good at any of that. But I can write songs, and so, as you can tell, I'm an emotional person. And it took me 3 years to write this one, because every year around her birthday, I'd start to write it, and then I'd cry. And I'd cry, and I'd cry, and I'd cry, and then I would never get it done. But finally, that lockdown got me through it here. So this is a song called Prairie Dawn. Her name is Dawn, and I thought I would compare her to our lovely prairie dawns that we have here, and yeah, so this is Prairie Dawn. All right. Chocolate. Yep, sure. If there is one thing that I would tell you, if I could reach out and speak to your heart, it would be thank you for all that you've done, all of the ways that you've shown me your love, that you're someone I can always count on, like the spark of a fire on the horizon, as it casts all the world in its light. You keep rising up from the twilight, foregone to burn bright as a prairie dawn. Well, you burn bright as a prairie dawn. Well, you know I've watched you all of the years going by, as we've grown, moved, and changed in this world, becoming a mother and loving your man, carefully weaving a life with your hands, igniting everywhere you land, like the spark of a fire on the horizon, as it casts all the world in its light. You keep rising up from the twilight, foregone to burn bright as a prairie dawn. You burn bright as a prairie So if it hurts my eyes to watch you shine, I'd gladly go blind. You're the spark of a fire on the horizon, and you cast all the world in your light. You keep rising up from the twilight, foregone to burn bright
Soul James, ladies and gentlemen. Got just a few left for you.
Put the 3 criers in a row.
Gotta get it out. I mentioned earlier that the quarantine wedding struck a little close to home because I happened to have gotten engaged during the last lockdown. And I got married just a few months ago, and I'm still figuring out how to play guitar with this ring on, but I'm not complaining. In fact, I got the lucky end of it. I met Joanna when we were playing a festival in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, and it happened to coincide with the Tall Ships Festival, and her and her dad sailed all the way from New Brunswick to Lunenburg to see the Tall Ships and to hear Ashley McIsaac play. And it just so happened that we were playing right before Ashley McIsaac, so the universe just sort of gave us one. And we met and we hit it off, and we did the long distance for a while, and then we said, this sucks. And then she said, fine, I'll move to Manitoba, but we have to get a sailboat on the biggest body of water. And that's how we started sailing on Lake Winnipeg. And we keep adding salt, hoping some whales will show up. And so far, nothing. But it has been a wonderful adventure so far with you, Joanna. And so when I proposed to her, I thought I would write her a song. And so I did. I wrote her this song about someone with saltwater blood who loves it here, but I know she misses the ocean. And when I wrote it, I decided I should probably see if Ashley McIsaac would deign to play on it. And it turns out he would deign, and he did. And so on the record, if you want to pick it up, you can hear Ashley McIsaac, the fiddle master from Cape Breton, playing on this song. He couldn't make it tonight, but instead of a Cape Breton fiddle master, we got a Franco-Manitoban banjo master, ladies and gentlemen, and some would say that's even better. So this is for you, Joe. It's called The Girl from the Ocean. 3, 4. Girl from the ocean, pining for the sea. 'Cause the prairie rolls too slowly. The air drier than the sun-baked fields. But when the gulls cry out, it could almost feel like home, home, oh, to be a home, home on the sea. Girl from the ocean stuck in a tideless place, dreaming of the salt spray on a sun-kissed face. She traded lighthouses for the elevators, casting shadows longer and much later than home, home, oh, to be oh, home, home on the sea. It's getting tougher being in her garden tending, dreary days spent dreaming of a winter ending. But with the axis tipping comes the barley bending, and when the wind comes whipping, it makes for prettier pretending. The girl from the ocean is finally free, steady in the wheelhouse out on a rolling sea, where now she is home, home, oh, to be oh, home, home on the sea. Girl from the ocean, thank you, folks. This has been absolutely wonderful. It has been a logistical nightmare, but a wonderful one, let me tell you that much. We have 2 songs left for you. And you know what I think? I think I'm going to say my thank yous right now, because then we're really going to get going, and we don't want to slow down for gratitude. Jeez. This has been only possible because the museum has been kind enough to preserve this amazing piece of our history and then allowed us to rock out on it. So I want to say thanks to Corinne and everybody at the Manitoba Museum who helped make this happen. Thank you, Corinne. You've been just wonderful. Once we knew we could play on the Nonsuch, my immediate next thought was, well, then we probably need to be able to drink some Nonsuch. And Ty and Mylène from Nonsuch have been just a pleasure to work with. And I encourage you to take the beer can home with you as a souvenir. If you scan the QR code on there, it'll take you to a website that has a bunch of information, backgrounds on the songs, in case you're into that kind of thing. But I really appreciate that they would work with us, and I would love to give one more round of applause for Mylène and everybody from Nonsuch and Ty. Thank you. They couldn't be here tonight, but $1 from each sale of those beers will go to the Lake Winnipeg Foundation, and I encourage you to check out the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. They work closely with the Lake Winnipeg Indigenous group as well, and they work very hard to bring attention and do what they can to protect our beautiful lakes, and I think it's a really worthwhile organization. So please check them out, and they got a great website in some ways you could help out, but that's the Lake Winnipeg Foundation, everybody. He's not here tonight, but I was recording most of these songs in the studio by myself, and I'd lost all objectivity on it, and I just sort of put it on a hard drive and gave it to Don Benedictson. I was like, is this anything? And he mixed it all for me and made sense of it, and I'm going to show him this video later, so I wanted to say a big thanks to Donnie Benedictson at Unity Gain Productions, and really appreciate him. I want to thank our presenting partner tonight. Theatre Projects Manitoba has given me a new appreciation for the power of theatre and what's possible when artists collaborate, and I know they're under very, very excellent hands right now. So I want to thank Ria and Susie for being my partners tonight and helping get the video together and their amazing season. I hope you will check it out and support Theatre Projects Manitoba. Ardith and Andrea, none of this would have been possible without you guys and all the amazing connections you made for us and the way you bring artists together. It'll be forever something I am grateful for and has enriched my life. So thank you to Ardith and Andrea. You guys are just, you're everything. You're the best. Thank you. I want to thank my other collaborating artists. I know some of them are here. I'm sorry if I forget anybody, but I want to thank Tanner and Josh, and I especially want to thank Emily Solstice. I don't know if anybody saw that video for the three sisters where they're dancing on the beach, and if you haven't, please check it out. It's the most amazing video I've ever seen. Even though it's my music, I had nothing to do with it, so I can say it. And it was Emily who did all of it, and she's an amazing dancer herself. So thank you so much, Emily. You're the best. When I said logistical nightmare, I really mean it. We got in here at 4 and had to get this all set up before we walked in the door, and luckily I have the absolute dream team. We've got Buio and PJ doing the video so we can all watch this later. We've got Jonny doing the sound, and we had Colin, and we had Colin helping out. So to Colin, to Jonny, to Buio, and to PJ, thank you so much, guys. You're just absolutely a dream to work with. I want to give one more shout out to my Interlake collaborators, especially Andy Blicq and Ruth Christie. Thank you so very much for all the great stories. Thank you. The Interlake is full of wonderful people, and they're two of the best, I'll tell you. I want to thank this amazing band that's on stage with me. One more time, folks, these are some of my best friends and best musicians you'll ever hope to see. That's Alex. That's Michael. It's Daniel. And this is Soul James. This is Hava.
And that's Daniel
And I'm
Jordan.
Daniel. It is true. I am Daniel Jordan. My very last thank you is always reserved for someone who has done so much behind the scenes and wouldn't even let me credit her on the CD, but she took the photos and made the website and told me to put my hair up in a bun, and she was right about all of it. So to my beautiful wife, Joanna, thank you so much. All right. We got 2 bangers for you, and the first one is one of Soul James's. You got a little something to say about this one?
Well, this is a song that if you want to sing along, the chorus is na 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 na, and it's the same en français. And Icelandic, yes. It's a song I wrote a long time ago. I was hoping maybe Interlake Tourism would pick it up for their theme song, but you know who did? Theater Projects Manitoba, the Chautauqua Tour. Yes. This is a song called Big Sky, and it's about all the people out in the Interlake area and how, for me, going out there as a young person, it was like going back in time. My mom grew up in the 50s, and she went to a one-room school, and that was pretty crazy to me. So anyway, this is Big Sky, and it's for all the people out in the Interlake, and you, and me, and everybody. Here we go. Well, my mother, she was born and raised when the good old days were young. Oh, yeah. And my father, the child of a golden age where a good thing just don't fade. Where you go back home and find folks still living the same. And they raised me to feel the pride for the land where I lay my young head down. 'Cause it was built by the sweat and the love of those I care about. So I sing, I'm from the prairie, born and raised between the inland oceans by the good Lord's grace. Closer to heaven, every moment spent living my life under the big sky. Na 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 na. Now just go there and find the salt of the earth in the face of the common human who built a life for themselves out of using their own two hands. Well, it's who we are, it's how it's done. When we're from the prairie, born and raised between the inland oceans by the good Lord's grace. Closer to heaven, every moment spent living our lives under the big sky.
For our last song, I'm going to need your help and potentially the lyrics. Imagine for a second you're on the shores of Lake Winnipeg. It's happening. If you go a little bit north of Silver Harbor where we sail our boat, you'll get to Nonsuch. It's got an H in front. I'm not quite sure how much you lean on the H, but for years a legendary boat sailed out of Nonsuch called the J.R. Spear. And when I read Glenn Sigurdsson's book, Vikings on a Prairie Ocean, he talked about years growing up, and it had been a generational boat. And so I wrote a song based on his experience as he detailed them from the boat, heading up to the North Basin and back every season. And when you do that, you go from the South Basin of Lake Winnipeg to the North Basin of Lake Winnipeg through what is commonly known as the Narrows. And so he talked all about this and what it was like to approach the Narrows, and I thought this was very evocative. So I decided I'd write an inland sea shanty about it. And I did, and I sent it to Glenn, and I said, is this okay, man? He said, yeah, it's great, but you should go back up to Nonsuch, and you should get my family my relatives and some of the folks out there to sing on it. And I said, yeah, okay, and I did. And Brenda, I don't know where she is, but she welcomed me into her home one Sunday morning and had a whole bunch of Chnesa-ites in her living room there, and they sang on and helped me do a bit of a choir. So they're here, but so are you. And so we're really hoping that you'll be our choir on this one in the time-honored tradition of the sea shanty. It's a call and response. Can I get an A minor, please? Whatever that means. So I'm gonna go like this. We're headed for the Narrows, Narrows, and you will go, headed for the Narrows today. Can we try that? We're headed for the Narrows, Narrows, headed for the Narrows today. And I'll do this, and we've got several chances, so you'll do better. And then I'll go, steady as she blows, well, the north wind blows, and we're headed for the Narrows today. And you'll go, headed for the Narrows today. Can you try that? So we'll do the whole thing, and my band will help you so you know where your part comes. We're headed for the Narrows, Narrows, heading for the Narrows today. It's steady as she goes, well, the north wind blows, and we're headed for the Narrows today. Headed for the Narrows today. Perfect, so that's gonna keep coming around. We hope you sing it. And then the other piece of the puzzle is we need you to do a stomp clap. It's exactly what it sounds like. And I think Michael might even be able to demonstrate that for us. All right? And the louder you sing, the more grog rations you get. All right. We're headed for the Narrows, Narrows, heading for the Narrows today. It's steady as she goes, well, the north wind blows, and we're headed for the Narrows today. Headed for the Narrows today. All aboard, those who coming aboard, 'cause we're heading for the Narrows today. On the J.R. Spear, off the Nonsuch Pier, we'll be heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. Yeah, we're casting off the dock with the freighter full stock, 'cause we're heading for the Narrows today. And the setting sun, you hear the diesel drum when we're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. Ah, we're headed for the Narrows, Narrows, heading for the Narrows today. It's steady as she goes and the north wind blows. Well, we're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. Boy, you get a feel when you're hauling on the wheel, and we're heading for the Narrows today. And it's steady on the course with the Fairbank boys when we're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. You see Hecla rising on the dim horizon, heading for the Narrows today. And the beacons light when we pass her in the night, and we're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. Yeah, we're heading for the Narrows, Narrows, heading for the Narrows today. 'Cause it's steady as she goes, well, the north wind blows, and we're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. Rolling with the rollers as they're pulling her over, heading for the Narrows today. And yet the night is ours if you're steering by the stars, and you're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. Got the shield stretching east-west, limestone reaching, heading for the Narrows today. And we're pushing on ahead through the channel dog heads when we're reaching for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. Yeah, we're heading for the Narrows, Narrows, heading for the Narrows today. And it's steady as she goes, well, the north wind blows, and we're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. You keep clapping and I'll sing you the last verse. With the sunrise facing to the wide north basin, heading for the Narrows today. It's the end of the season and a full holds reason. We're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. Ah, we're heading for the Narrows, Narrows, heading for the Narrows today. and it's steady as she goes. Well, the north wind blows, and we're heading for the Narrows today. Heading for the Narrows today. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here for Songs from the Inland Sea. Thanks to everybody who helped make this happen. We'll come say hello, grab a CD on the way out, tell your friends, find us online. We're going to be heading on a tour of the Interlake. You can find that on the website. We'll be in Gimli, Arberg, Selkirk. Tell your friends, Riverton. Thank you so much. Have a great night.